Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Hello, so we're here with Ben Thaler, decorated rugby league referee, and we're just going to ask you a few questions about your time in the game, with a bit of a southern focus. Hope you don't mind. So I think your first refereeing appointment was a London Broncos game. Is that right?
It was, but going well back, which is very interesting. That's the first Super League game. My first National Conference League game was actually Dodworth, which is a place in Barnsley, mining village, versus London Scholars.
Oh, even better.
Scholars were in the National Conference League in like 1998, something like that, 97, 98.
Wow.
That was my first game. And then, London, I refereed the Scholars when they got into the Championship, and I refereed them against Gateshead when neither team had ever won a professional match. So, and Gateshead who were winning, and
they do draw in the end.
No, London scored controversially. So actually, the first historical win should have actually never been a win. I blame the touch judge for that. It was called Fawcett from Halifax, I remember.
We'll tag him, let him know.
Very quiet journey on the way back. And then, my first Super League game was Broncos versus Leigh.
Do you remember the result?
A lot to not many. Let me think. 70-some, 10, I think, or something like that.
Really?
74. Someone Leigh, funnily enough, was the first proper programming in 2001 when I refereed them against York, and it was 84 points to 0. And this kid for York kicked the goal, or I kicked the ball, called Pallister, and I give a tap 20, thinking they just kicked the ball dead. And he, as they're running back to 20, went, "You'll do really well, you." I said, "Oh, thanks very much." He shook my hand and went, "Yeah, we've just kicked a drop goal, and you haven't even noticed." And they had, and they won the game. The touch came on and told me 84 points to 1. So London. I've had some great times down in London.
And have you done many games down there then over the?
A hell of a lot, because when you come through and you look at refereeing when I first got into the Championship, or what was the Northern Ford then Premiership, Scholars were you'd obviously work your way up. So Scholars were a team around the bottom half of the table. So you'd do them quite a lot, and other teams. And then when you got into Super League, again, London were always mid to bottom. So I'd do them a hell of a lot at home, and I'd do some great games where London, you never knew what you'd get. Really, you'd never know if there'd be 1,000 watching the Broncos at Twickenham, or you'd have 5,000. And it really did. It was interesting. I refereed a game that somebody reminded me the other day when they played Manly. So they came over to play in the World Club Challenge. I think it was 07 or 08, and I refereed the game that Broncos played Manly in a warm-up game. It was 8,000 on at Twickenham, and that's why it's like, wow, it was great.
What was the atmosphere like?
That was buzzing.
Yeah,
it really was. And obviously England played Australia played New Zealand there in 2008-09 in the Chinese, and again that was full because of that. And it'd be great if they could build on that. But my dad played for a team called Kent Invicta. So Kent Invicta were a team in the early 80s who come into the professional ranks. And my dad, and there was a lot of Northern players who were top, like Barla players, if you like, amateur players. They played for them. So I've got some footage of him.
They still exist, do they? Invicta Panthers?
Is it Invicta Panthers? Yeah.
They
So,
still play,
Kent Invicta played, and my dad's two stepbrothers, Bob and Kevin Beardmore, played for Castleford. And the Kent Invicta drew Castleford in the Challenge Cup. The BBC picked that game, and my dad played against his two stepbrothers.
Wow.
And then they all had to rush up home with this Kent Invicta side because they all worked down the pits and that type of thing. Yeah. I think I do. I think there's a buzz for it, and it just really needs to take off from where it is. That Wimbledon's a great little
lovely
ground, and it's great that there's so much going on around with all the teams, with yourselves, Medway, Brentwood, and what have you, and teams that have been around a lot, Hemel that have been around and even been in the
professional ranks
of Oxford and other teams like that.
Yeah,
and it'd be great if something could really take off and do like they did and get to cup final like they did in 1990. Before, I'm guessing you lot were born.
Potentially.
I'd honestly had refereeing then been a while, but it'd be great if that could take off because you can just see sometimes when there is an event in London or the Aussies come to town and things like that.
Yeah, how
the guys all come.
Well, the Ashes was. I mean, that's probably as busy as you see Wembley Walk, right, from the train station. That was amazing, and shame about the result, but it was good to see that there's definitely like fans want to go and watch rugby league down there.
They do, and I think it'd be interesting to see what happens. The Broncos take off. they get into Super League again in the next year or so and things like. Because you look at the investment and to get people like Lockyer and Hetherington involved.
That's a great setup
It's
there
like,
now, yeah.
It's like, wow, come on, you've got a guy who's played top international player in NRL, and a guy who, if you like, has been a mainstay and one of the top administrators, if not the leading administrator in Super League for the last 20 odd years, who's gone down there to take. So if you get those people behind it, I can't see why it can't take off.
It's a great foundation, isn't it? On sort of the expansion thing, you've refereed plenty of internationals, including some more obscure rugby league nations. What's that like as an experience to sort of go and referee in games between some nations who aren't necessarily traditional rugby league countries, and what are those games like?
It'd be quite interesting because I refereed a game in London. I think it was 20 years ago this year. I think I refereed Lebanon versus Russia. That game should have been played in Lebanon,
right?
But the game couldn't be played over there because of and it's funny that where we are at today and things that's going off, sadly, around the world and things like that, that we couldn't go to Lebanon. So the game had to be played in neutral ground, and Russia wouldn't go there. Nobody would go and ref. And then again, I'd probably still go and referee. But we played at White Hart Lane. The game was at White Hart Lane. It had not stopped raining for about 3 weeks, so a bit like the weather we've just had recently. So it was like a quagmire. And the coach of Russia was the great Aussie coach, Tim Sheens. And it was a World Cup qualifying game for the 2008 World Cup. And it was as hard a game that I'd ever at that time in my career had refereed. And I'd refereed in Super League for a couple of years as well.
Wow.
And they bashed one another because the Russian team got a number of players from the English Super League and the NRL. And the Lebanon side was made up of a lot of NRL players. End of the seasons, they all came over.
Yeah.
But then I've been out to Lebanon. I've been out to Serbia, so I've been out to Beirut and places like that and refereed games in army barracks where you're picked up and you're just taken to your hotel and say, don't leave.
Yeah.
In 2005, I refereed Georgia versus France, and they're all going, oh, that's really nice, Georgia. I'm like, no, Georgia is in Georgia, the country, and they
not
play,
the state,
and not the state, and they played France. And we come off this aeroplane. I'll never forget, it's Jerry Kershaw was the match commissioner, and the touch judges were two guys called Gary Towie and Dave Griffiths. And as we got off this plane, we got met in Georgia by these like white transit vans that look like they're not passed an MOT ever. Put on these MOT, and then as we're on these back, and I remember being with old Jerry at the back, these two black, massive BMWs, blacked out, pulled up against the side with these lads with guns. And they called our names out to get off this like minibus. And old Kershaw turned as white as these walls as to say, you're staying with me. And we got taken into this back of the airport, which was just like a big bus stop, if you like.
Yeah.
That's all it was. And the planes were like something from a film from like the 1960s. And we got taken into this like entrance, into this like lounge that was like velvet seats and vodka just flying around
VIP.
everywhere. Now, this is like the VIP of some like nightclub in Soho or something like that. And then it happened to rain, threw it down, so we couldn't really go anywhere. And then France beat them, and they look after us, so they take us to this thing and all this, and they try and say, "You enjoy your day, and we take you out for a meal. We take you for this."
Yeah.
And they won 60-0, did France. So it was like,
you didn't get it on the way back.
You needed more than me, help from me. We didn't get anything on the way back. We just got taken. Here you are, off you go.
Off you go. Yeah.
But no, it is. It's great because that showed expansion of the sport.
Yeah.
And things like that. And I refereed Lebanon a couple of times in World Cups in 2017 and things like that. And in the 13 World Cup, I refereed one of the best games, most enjoyable games in my career. It was played in Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
So they filled. I think it's called the Memorial Ground, I think, Bristol Football Ground.
Right.
They filled it. There are 10,000 people there. We've not taken the game back there, which doesn't make sense to me. And the Cook Islands played the USA.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it was one of the most enjoyable games of the tournament. They played rugby. It was tight. And it was just like people had come to watch rugby league, not because they were rugby league diehards, to see what it was like.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere was absolutely
good advertisement, right?
Brilliant advertisement for rugby league down there. And obviously from that, and I know Lionel, who's involved at Bristol All Goals and things like that, although he's a Yorkshireman originally. I think he's actually from Hull, but we'll leave that one. He might not like me saying that because his posh
He's
accent.
Bristol through and through.
He's Bristol through and through, but I'm positive he's from Yorkshire. But yeah, they tried to take off, and I think it could work. And it is great to see that teams from the south have entered like the National Cup.
Mm-hmm.
That there is the Southern Conference, which can take off. That
Yeah.
you guys played. I think you didn't play Medway in the.
We did, yeah, in the first round.
In the first round of the Cup. I know. Then the Army played and things like that. So I think that's great that the game can expand.
Yeah.
And it's great to see you guys here and other clubs to have all like the Premier Division sides, if you like, here represented from the National League,
mm-hmm.
and the introduction of this NCRL, which I think is needed. It really is that to bring everybody and unite people together, and I think it will help, and it'll help obviously teams that are not across the M62 corridor, if you like, in Cumbria and the North East and in the South and things like that. It can really gel everybody together.
Yeah, great. So just quick fire, last question to wrap us up. What was your favourite game you've ever refereed?
Well, it's really weird. My most favourite game was I refereed Batley versus Dewsbury in a playoff game. They split the old championship. So whilst I refereed at Wembley and Old Trafford and Sydney and like Brisbane and in Auckland, etc., Denver, Paris, Barcelona, I refereed at Nou Camp. Because there was a period in 2018 that
refereed at Nou Camp?
I refereed at Nou Camp when I refereed in Denver, England versus New Zealand at the Mile High, where the altitude was just unbelievable. We came back and we did Magic at Anfield, and then the week after I went to Nou Camp, and then so it was like five weeks on the bounce. I refereed at either Premiership or international football grounds, and then we went out to Nou Camp. And they got 30,000 for a Super League game.
Wow.
Decathlon. And it was absolutely amazing. That Nou Camp experience was great. Going back, Batley versus Dewsbury, they split the championship when there was 20 teams. Mm-hmm. And they finished 10th and 11th. They had to play off to decide who went into the top division. And they just played rugby, and it was an absolutely great game. But probably refereeing Leeds and Melbourne in the World Cup Challenge in 13. That was a great... Headingley was full. I always enjoyed refereeing at Headingley, mm-hmm. particularly like when they played Bradford in the mid-2000s, 2008-9, when they were getting 20-odd thousand, 22,000 crammed in.
Yeah.
But that atmosphere was brilliant because Leeds, when Maguire broke through and he passes to Rob, bless him, and Rob knocks on, and they could have won and that type of thing near the end. And then on that, I refereed Bradford and Leeds, probably definitely towards the end of my career, a most memorable thing when Rob had been diagnosed with MND, and they had the MND game mm-hmm. when Bradford came. And one of the best gestures I've ever seen is all the Bradford players didn't get paid, tipped the pay up, but also they also paid in. Yeah. So when we went to the toss, John Keir, the Bradford coach, gave Phil Daly, the Leeds media manager, an envelope, and all his players had paid 30 quid as if he'd entry in. And that I thought was a class act.
Yeah.
And to see Rob, bless him, who's now sadly passed away from MND, and my dad died of Huntington's, which is quite a similar sort of genetic condition. It was great that atmosphere in there to get 20-odd thousand people. Yeah. The neutral fans as well. So there's people with Bronco shirts, and I loved the old Broncos red, blue, white, yellow.
The sort of like Harlequins.
I love that Harlequin shirt because it stood out.
Yeah.
And you always saw people at games. And generally the ones who abused me for years because they never like young Thaler from you. You cheating Yorkshire something. I used to get shouted that actually when it was Castleford versus Leeds.
Never mind London.
Never mind London, or if it was Saints versus Warrington, I'd still get you cheating Yorkshire. But no, Headingley was a great place to referee. But I also like the traditional grounds as well. I enjoyed refereeing at Castleford. Yeah. I loved what they've done at Hull KR. It's amazing when they've got that Craven Street, the fans there, and made it into something like copied like the Toronto model. Yeah. But it would be great to see things take off. Definitely London. I think London, they might look to go back to the Stoop or something like that. Yeah. Get back to the Stoop, get back to where there's a lot of Australians around there. Exactly. And people to commute. And I really think it can take off.
Well, what we'll have to do is, if and when we're successful with the championship bid, you'll have to come and get the three-peat on Southern teams and referee.
I'm not sure I'll be refereeing Orange around. I'm at no training session for 20 minutes, but not on 80 minutes anymore.
Yeah, no, great. Thanks for your time. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.